Welcome once again. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa says criminals have declared a war on the police and warned that they will face the full might of the law. His words come just one day after a police officer was killed in Eastern Cape during a shootout with criminals robbing a store. Ramaphosa was speaking at the South African Police's National Commemoration Day at the Union Buildings in Pretoria on Sunday. According to the stats, since the beginning of the year, about 33 police officers have been killed while on duty.
In the latest incident in the Eastern Cape, police have foiled an armed robbery at a retail chain where the officer was gunned down. Joining us this morning is journalist and editor Candice Bailey to give us more insight on this. Good morning, Candice. The most recent police killing in the Eastern Cape, what do we know about this? What has happened so far?
Morning, guys. In fact, I can confirm that there is a 43-year-old police officer that was killed yesterday in Ngobo in the Eastern Cape. Another of his colleagues, a 35-year-old officer, was seriously injured in that shootout with criminals at this retail store. Now, we don't know much detail about it, but we do know that it was quite a dramatic shooting. At least two suspects were killed, a third was arrested, and one managed to escape. So it was quite a dramatic incident that played out in the streets of Ngobo yesterday. But that's all we know for now. But it's quite a tragic incident that those officers lost their lives and that they are now sustaining serious injuries.
All right, can you share a little bit on the president's remarks and, how effective all of this is, with addressing the situation?
So, yes, yesterday was the National Commemoration Day for police officers. It's a day that we have every year where we actually have a wreath-laying ceremony to commemorate those officers that have died. Now, September is National Police Safety Month, and it's usually the time of the year that we focus on police killings and we look at what's happened, how things have been tackled. Now, the president's remarks are a breath of fresh air for the cops, but, whether it will be followed up with action is another story. What he has said is that, the police are acting in the authority as the state, and that any attack on the police is really an attack on the state and an attack on their citizens. And what he's done in his address yesterday is that he called on the police minister, Cele, to really make sure that the police had the resources that they needed to prevent, to combat, and to investigate these crimes. Now, what he's been saying in recent weeks, there's been lots of talk about police budget cuts, and that would obviously significantly affect the police's ability not only to fight crime, but also to be able to investigate the deaths of their colleagues. You'd need to make sure that these can take place. He did say yesterday that about 187 criminals have been arrested for killing police, and at least 55 of those have been convicted and sentenced. So there is some movement, but much more can still be done, clearly.
Candice, it's the 9th month of the year, and we have reports that the statistics say 33 police officers have been killed. Now, aside from the case in the Eastern Cape, talk to us about the other cases that may have happened recently.
There are a number of incidents, but I think the three that I want to highlight for you this morning, two happened in KwaZulu-Natal in the past week. We saw in Umlazi, which is a township in Durban, we saw two officers being shot at. There were three of the two officers along with their colleague had gone to a store to get some food while they were on duty. A band of criminals then accosted them and then shot at them. The officer who was driving was killed. His colleague who was sitting next to him was seriously injured. And luckily, the third officer got away without any injuries. And that came on the back of an incident in Mayville, also in KwaZulu-Natal, where two officers were seriously injured when they were shot while they were trying to apprehend a suspect. And then just 2 weeks earlier, we saw a Sergeant Sharon Mokhale being shot in the head in a township, in Tembisa Township in Gauteng. So three quite horrific incidents that we can tell. I mean, those are not the only ones. There are several other incidents that have happened in the last few weeks, but those are the three of the most horrific that we've been reporting on.
Well, a couple of years ago, Nigeria, of course, had its own share of attacks against the police in certain regions, and also, if you remember, after the George Floyd incident, there were some attacks, against police officers in the U.S. Is there any understanding as to what is going on in the South African case? Do these criminals have issues with the police? Are the police now endangered in certain locations?
I don't think it's that they have issues with the police. I must say that police have been covering crime for quite a long time. Police killings is not new in South Africa. I think that the criminals are just very brazen, and are not thinking about whether or not they shoot back at police. I think they're willing to get away more than they're willing to, think of men and women in blue that sacrifice their lives on a daily basis. So they're just very brazen in South Africa and willing to do what it takes to make sure that they can get away with crimes.
All right, and also from the public, what are the reactions so far that the public has had to these killings, these unfortunate killings of the police?
I think there hasn't been any major reaction from the public, but definitely police unions have stood up and said, enough is enough. We need to take some form of action. We've seen two of our big police unions, the South African Police Union, SAPU, and POPCRU, saying that something needs to be done. In fact, SAPU has said that the police need a plan. They need a strategy plan that, tells us how they are going to start dealing with, protecting police who are out there on a daily basis. POPCRU has said that, they can't just be seeing their colleagues die. We need quicker arrests. We need more arrests of cop killers. So there are definitely calls from the union saying we are keeping an eye on this issue and we do want something to happen. We want some form of action.
Thank you very much, Dr. Candice Bailey, for joining us this morning. We will be keeping up to date with you to find out what the updates on this story is.
Thank you so much.
All right, really, our hearts go out to those police officers' families, and we hope that that situation is arrested as quickly as possible in South Africa. All right, here in Nigeria, no fewer than 3 persons have been kidnapped in Sabuwa Kota community in Jibia local government area of Katsina State. Although police authorities in the state are yet to confirm the incident, eyewitnesses say those kidnapped are made up of 2 children along with an adult. Also, the Kankia House of Assembly candidate of the People's Democratic Party for the 2023 general elections, Honorable Ibrahim Tafashia, has been rescued by the police in Katsina State after he was abducted on Saturday night by a gang of terrorists operating in the Kankia local government area of the state.
The police spokesman, Gambo Isa, while confirming the development, said the rescue operation commenced immediately after the command received a distress call. This is bittersweet feelings, I guess. On the one hand, we're excited about the release or the recapture, or rather rescue, I beg your pardon, of the political aspirant or the political party official. But on the other hand, we're thinking of the other people who have been kidnapped, and it just leaves a bitter taste in our mouth. It seems that we see these stories every day. Now, what I worry about is the fact that we're becoming desensitized to the kidnappings that are happening, because it's now looking like numbers and figures. Oh, 2 people kidnapped here, 3 people kidnapped here, 1 person captured, so we're doing +1 -5, or 1 person has been released, or 5 other people have been kidnapped. And it just worries me, bothers me to see that we are becoming a nation that's is unfortunately grasping with the effect of kidnapping in a way that some have now started to see it as a business, as a source of income.
Absolutely, and being desensitized, that's been going on for a long time. That's not new. That's at least in the next 10 years, we have been desensitized to some level of crime. It's only getting worse. And yes, I think I remember that I said this, that with the Abuja-Kaduna train kidnapping and seeing the response of the government and the reaction of Nigerians to that, it will definitely embolden other persons to, feel like kidnapping might be a, way of, of life or making money, or raising income. People have quoted that the Abuja-Kaduna, or in the last, I'm sure what story that was, they made about 3 billion from just kidnapping. And so there will be other people who may not necessarily be terrorists or bandits or any of all the part of these terror groups, but they will take advantage of the situation and realize that yes, we can as well set up our own kidnap cartel and do this. Sadly, and of course, the reality is that nobody is really excluded from this. Politician, common man, civil servant, anybody can, fall victim.
Absolutely.
And so it's a wake-up call to the government once again.